All right, this is going to be a great session. The humanising of architecture inside the nature-inspired mind of architectural prodigy Koichi Takada. In this presentation, he's going to take us through his approach to humanising architecture through natural inspiration. He started his firm in Sydney in 2008 and has since built a reputation as one of the most inspired architectural practices in the region. Through a series of award-winning designs, the growing practice is gaining an international reputation with projects underway in Sydney, Brisbane, Tokyo, Gold Coast, Los Angeles, and Mexico City. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Koichi Takada, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Good to see you, Tim, and thank you everyone for coming. It's a wonderful occasion that we could all come together and discuss a topic and raise awareness. I was labeled, believe it or not, in Sydney, bad boys of architecture, because apparently I do push the boundary of design. And I wanted to sort of maybe share that spirit, because maybe we do need this type of spirit to be bad, to do not just the good, but the great things. Let me show you two images that question the development of our city today. This is the result of modernization of machine age and so-called globalization that made our world flat. Let me ask you this question: how do we naturalize our cities? This image in particular questions our health and well-being of living in a city. This is, by the way, the world's most polluted capital city. Can you guess which city? If you don't recognize the city, let me show you a day without the pollution. And now can you guess which city? These anonymous buildings are the result of globalized influence, basically copy and paste. They all look the same everywhere, don't they? How can we humanize architecture that celebrates our cultural diversity and connects with us at human scale? Let me also refer to this environmental performance index. Switzerland's on the top, and our country, Australia, is ranked 22. Can we think big, drawing inspiration from nature and continue improving living environment by educating ourselves so that we can deliver the performance, let's say, of Switzerland and make our cities the world's greenest? And equally, how about thinking small? Culturally sustain the point of difference and designing and developing our cities in touch with local culture and community, with locally sourced inspiration and materiality, facilitating local economy, as well as maintaining our identity and respect our past and developing in favor of sustainability for the future generation. Let me show you the evolution of my practice, last 11 years of work based in Sydney, starting from interiors. Well, we started, let's say, from a fast food restaurant, and now we have a 3-star Michelin project in Doha, commissioned by royal family. And from then, the interior architecture, we went into high-rises and now to the skyscrapers. So I start with this project. Cave Restaurant, the index on the left shows the performance index, so relative to, similar to the underdeveloped country in terms of the performance. And of course, when we started practice, we were not aware of this agenda, and we want to show how we evolve. So the Cave Restaurant is really about drawing inspiration from cave-like environment, and it's pretty much about the acoustic, more so than the shape. And when you dine here, it's very cozy, and it's a wonderful environment to bring everyone together. and facilitate the talk. Hanami is a very important symbol of arrival in Japan, and socially speaking, one of the great days you can be in Japan anywhere under the cherry blossom. We saw this particular project. It shows, I suppose, the way we approach design. There was a column in the middle of the space that normally other architects would see as a negative element, but we saw it as an opportunity to create something characteristic and unique to the site condition given to us. Fig trees are native to this area of East Village where we developed a shopping mall. We developed a shopping mall that is 5-star green stars and one of a kind in these areas and brought everyone together. And then I remember this project as well, that architects and builders were fighting to get rid of 6 columns. And after 20 minutes, I just jump in and say, why don't you give it to me? And maybe give me 2 extra days and I'll propose something. So in other words, we grow trees around the column to create the forest on the marketplace. And apparently saved 2.5 million by doing so, but also create this wonderfully memorable space. I suppose this is the pinnacle of one of our interior architecture project, drawing inspiration from the desert rose in Qatar. National Museum of Qatar, designed by Jean Nouvel, and external, so essentially emulate the way this crystallization of the desert rose works and turning into architecture. We then came in to do the interiors and draw inspiration from different types of crystallization in desert. And I went to this cave. It's wonderful. Desert is essentially flat, and all of a sudden this becomes very emotional experience, turning into a wonderful this cave-like experience. Then we built this, used 40,000 timber pieces, if you believe it or not, 3-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. This Italian master builders or the craftsmen said I was the craziest architect he ever met in the world. And it was absolutely crazy. But as you can see, it's a wonderful environment to be in the middle of the city, in the middle of the desert condition, in the museum. And then all of a sudden, you have this place for respite, if you like, but turning into the shopping venue. And I heard that from the clients that the shopping revenue jumped 3 times, than they expected originally. And as you can see, then we went into architecture. One of our first projects was in North Sydney, and we looked to Great Barrier Reef and the color of water in Australia and bring that color back into the top of the roof, as in a sky deck and infinity pool. And it's a wonderful way to celebrate and share the open space with the residents. One of the projects that seemed to be winning local and international awards, and we just won another one in London, and it's been 19th awards given to us, sort of a brick masonry, bringing the traditional materialities of brick back into the city, and then remembering the past, and also blending into the very delicate heritage context. And we're getting the wonderful feedback of doing this in the middle of the city. One of the rooftop that blew AGATE signifies the healing power. So we opened up the rooftop for everyone to come up and in touch with the sky, in touch with the fresh air, and look to the beautiful Sydney Harbour. And this was done with a negotiation with City of Council to allow to go over the height limit as an architectural roof feature, essentially adding massive value to the architecture. Now this project got me into a lot of trouble and absolutely controversial project. Never mind, we almost to the end. The Infinity by Crown Group, which allows, there's a massive loop opening in the facade which draw daylight into the heart of architecture. And we sculpted architecture in such a way that it's very aerodynamic and tamed the wind, but also allow the daylight into the public plaza. So there's a lot of relationship with the natural conditions surrounding, and also facilitate the ventilation, natural ventilation, as drawing the air into the hole and it pushes out. I love this photo because you look around the city again, it's just this lot of anonymous buildings, one after another. What I call the infinity is a landscape tower, goes ups and down, just like the Sydney topography, and I suppose people's emotion, love and hate of the city, and it's a wonderful way to express that in architecture. In Tokyo, this is under construction. We won this project for the American IT giant, and soon, just before Tokyo Olympic, this will be unveiled. It's a wonderful way to create something that organic and Zen garden-like feel in the middle of Tokyo. Another project that we're doing in Brisbane, this will be launched hopefully shortly soon, but 50-meter infinity pool that cascade 120 meter down on the western facade. So what it does is, of course, the corridors are naturally ventilated, all the parliament will be cross-ventilated, and also this waterfall will cool down the environment. So that's a lot of good thing, and of course facing west makes sense to do this and grow vegetation at the podium levels. So the last project that I wanted to share with you is the sort of, we draw inspiration from Californian redwood, which is essentially has the oldest trees in the world. So this tree is 1,000 years old. You see the person next to it, it's massive, and symbol of sustainability. So we brought this idea of creating something that is the healthiest living, healthiest place you can live in downtown LA. And also this apparently went viral in the website. Everybody said, well, this does look like a Marilyn Monroe flying skirt. And of course the Hollywood reference, culturally speaking, and now this is with the council. And also this facade does cleans the air pollutions and do a lot of good things, of course, designed to breathe. And we have a lot of programs that facilitate the well-being of the residents and the neighbors now coming on board. I hope that this building would turn the traffic-oriented society into walkable city one day. So I hope that you know, you would join us, my team, in making our cities, Australian cities, the greenest city in the world, and why not? Thank you so much.
Take a seat over. We'll sit here together. That was great, thank you. I'm a big fan of your work. I'm a big fan of you as a human being
Thank you.
too.
Thank you.
I love him. Can you tell me about sort of the buildings that you've been into? An example of a building that's not your own, that has moved you in that way.
You know, something that, so in Italy, in Rome, I always talk about it, Borromini, Francesco Borromini, I even named my son Francesco. But anyhow, so Borromini's church, San Carlino in Rome, is something about very human. And of course, you know, in Renaissance, the church was represented in sort of a more circular, complete circular form, if you like, the infinite form. Whereas Borromini designed it from a human eye level. So his church does make sense. It's something so organic about it. And as a student, I tried to make sense geometric. You just can't make sense. And other building, of course, you know, combination of perfect geometry. Another was designed from God's eye view. But I really like this idea of experience and engaging with architecture, and also the process of making architecture that shows as a result. Just like our life, you know, we're never perfect and it's never, you know, straightforward. But that is the life that we should, you know, represent and draw inspiration from.
Well, we see this sort of a global style of architecture coming along, and the criticism is that the buildings, you know, look the same no matter where they are. And we don't just see it with architecture, we see it with menus. You go into any restaurant in the world and they all seem to be the same. How do we make architecture in this country reflect who we are?
I think we are definitely has, you know, we have enormous commercialized pressure to deliver your business model to work and to be a sound model. And this is massive pressure. But if you just follow that, you just get the box. And you might make a money, but people might hate you for doing this. And this you can't change the rest of your life. So we approach and say, okay, well, how can we add value? Not just make the business work for you, but how can you then add the value? In fact, then increase the value of each project that we tackle. And the way to do that is not just making it look prettier, but making it healthier or making it greener and making it so that it belongs to the community and people's heart. In architecture, something that people recognize, through architecture and also create massive awareness through architecture, and why not? And of course, the politics and art and really trying to do, but architecture somehow, or development, we sort of lost that touch, and but we can genuinely approach to make a point of difference. And by doing so, you do add value, and let's take a bit of a risk and be the bad boy, guys, That's the best way to approach it, to break the rules, let's say.
How do you get, those people the developers to take risks? How do you talk them, get them across the line?
No, look, our design's never compliance. I mean, we follow the rules. We do follow the rules, but there's a point that you realize that the rule doesn't make sense because every site is different condition. You have to argue based on merit. You have to design based on very, very site-specific condition. And this is where the uniqueness comes out, and this is where you're adding value. But if you don't do that, then you don't add value. So I wouldn't say break rules, but at least you bend the rules. And most of our project never complied fully, And but that's what architects do. Why would you engage architects if they can add value to your development?
Yeah, well, just imagine if you could just do it in the old days where you just knock up an extension and never get in council approval. So good. Don't want to give too much away, but where I live, the council building burnt down in 1972. My house was built in 1959. They do not have my plans. They do not know what's going on. I can do whatever I want to my house. They've got no idea. It's just put up the sheets so the neighbours don't know. I've taken time off you. Do we have any questions? Is anyone? Gentleman at the front, you've been good on the questions. Thank you for this.
Fascinated by this one too, Koichi, with the amazing use of natural materials you've got. When I did a study tour over in Singapore a little while ago, I noticed that they were very big on the green space ratio of buildings when you look at them from above, not just for the look, but also for the breathability of the air. And they actually turned around a city that was, very heavily polluted a long time ago, and I don't know how far up they are on the rankings now. But do you see the green space ratio of buildings? Some of theirs seem to be 3-to-1 for how much actual level that they've got facing the sky of green, and 1-to-1 was their minimum ratio. Is that an important factor, do you think, in making our air more healthy to go with the sort of organic style of architecture that you're doing, and how councils seeing that when trying to get offsets for more unique designs like you're doing?
I mean, certainly making it green, literally greening, and having, for instance, trees on the buildings does make a difference, because certainly people do understand what it does. And for instance, we're doing a project that we're negotiating to put almost 300 trees in the building, and that's equivalent to to having the proper public park in a vertical form. And of course, you have to design the ecology of it. It's a complex exercise, but it's certainly that we feel that we given the pressure to approach this way to show the world that this is possible. And of course, Singapore has legislation that to repeat, if you take the open space, you have to repeat that amount on within the building form. And that's a wonderful way to open up a space to interact, because the interaction is the problem. We become so digitally oriented, and I believe in technology and innovation if that helps us interact more in a human sense, you know. And the greening of it is perhaps also very much important part of humanizing architecture. And it's something that is really fundamental value to, you know, making us happy. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you don't want to look at concrete or metal, but of course if you know, wake up within the nature, it's a wonderful way to recharge and start your day. And so, you know, why not?
Got time for one last question here, this gentleman.
Hey, Koichi.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Good. Great talk. You work with quite a few sort of very iconoclastic developers, very visionary developers. How do you, being such a visionary yourself with having very clear ideas of what you want to do, how do you make it work with those kind of those types of clients who have a very clear vision themselves, and how do you wrestle those dragons?
I think that's a very good question. I mean, it is a hard work, but we often, you know, to make what you believe in work for the clients, you have to really tap into everyday subject. And then for me, it's the nature is something that, you know, shared by wonderfully, you know, whether it's going to QATAR for the different culture or the different environment, somehow we talk about the nature, everybody comes together, and also the cultural aspect of the city and the project. And in terms of clients, I think we do work, you know, this is a very process-based, and you know, once we learn his vision or her vision, then we would really try to constantly evolve and you know, discuss as a more interactive team and collaborative work, so that, you know, in other words, it's not just my vision, but we throw a lot of things that through architecture that it's the shared vision, and let other people participate in making so. And in the past, it used to be master architects come on board and sketch, and off you go, you built it. But the way we build is we involve everyone, including clients, including engineers, sometimes botanists, sometimes gardeners. You know, of course, there's all these layers after layers of people that come on board, and I feel that that's the enriching process that, you know, if you all can share in building and designing, it's quite an empowering process. And clients, of course, will learn a great amount from that, and understand why he's adding potentially extra development value in doing so, get extra from doing it.
Fabulous. Well, a lot to be learned from that. Please thank Koichi, ladies and gentlemen, our very special guest. Thanks, buddy. Good to see you.